I've been looking at Psalm 78. It talks so much about the history, the story of God's people, but it's not always positive, unfortunately, and it's full of things where God was having to deal with them because they were not in the right place, they were not in a good place, they were not walking faithfully. And so it talks so often in Psalm 78 about things that God had to deal with them about and things that happened to them as a result of their disobedience. But my prayer is that God will give us grace to be people who are obedient, people who are faithful. We don't want to have a report that says about the way in which we were compromised, the way in which we angered God in our rebellion and our attitudes. We don't want to have a report about us as people, as individuals, which doesn't look great. It is a good thing to have a story, a narrative about your life that tells how you were faithful to God, how you did things out of obedience, how you were always going after the will of God, the purpose of God in your life, in your generation. And my prayer is that we'll be people like that. Lord, change us. Help us to have a story that is worth telling. Not just because we want to be famous or well known or something like that, but because we want to be known as people who are faithful to Jesus. And we can say at the end to him, I was just obedient to you, when he says, well done, good and faithful servant. And so that's a good purpose to have, and it's also important. These things are written for our learning in the Old Testament. They're written for us as reminders to stir us on, to make good choices, to realize that our days are numbered, our life is short, we don't have a long time. It can go in a flash, and things can happen very quickly, and we don't have the time that we imagined we would have. So it's important for us to act wisely. And I'm particularly praying today that we'll just be reminded of that we would be people who use the time well and for God's glory, and we will live lives that leave a legacy for others, one that displays the glory of God, one that is a testimony, a story of God's faithfulness, a story of our obedience and response to him, because he loves us.